Listen, I think that my opinion of Lavar has softened over the past year and a half, 2 years, as Lavar has piped down and just kind of let his sons do their thing. And so now it's a lot easier for me to accept, see, acknowledge, celebrate the good part of LeVar Ball. And he and his wife certainly have raised some sons that seem to be relatively well adjusted, particularly for living in the sports bubble the way that they have. Obviously, the one kid, LeAngelo, I think it was LeAngelo, that had the problems at UCLA. But trust me, I had some problems at Ball State. They just didn't make the news. And so I do think LeVar's commitment to his boys, and I can see why he got lost in the sauce a little bit, because any man who's an athlete and has an ego, if they produce 3 sons that athletically gifted with a chance to be pro basketball players, that's going to screw with your ego. That is going to make you think you can speak anything into existence. And so if you can speak 3 boys that are damn near good enough to play in the NBA, you can also be like, well, you know what? They're all going to play for the Lakers, and they're all going to be better than Magic Johnson. So I have caught up to some of you all that were softer on LeVar earlier than I was, because I didn't like the stuff he was doing early on. But Greg, you wrote about an interesting story of going to their house in terms of he made his sons lay some concrete?
Yeah, so his backyard is like an L shape around the side of his house. And on one side, there's a basketball court, and the other side, there's a swimming pool and a few other things, and a couple of pull-up bars. And so, he's bragging about himself as usual. And I look down at these pull-up bars, and these metal posts are into the concrete, and it's the worst concrete job I've ever seen. It just looks terrible. And so I said, what's with that concrete? It's terrible. And he's, of course, he goes, oh yeah, he goes, I made my sons do that. He says, they all did that because I wanted them to learn the lesson that this is what life is like if you're not in the NBA. So this is what real life is. And so he said, I made them do that when they were little kids. They were down there doing it, and yeah, it's terrible. But he says, how bad it is still a message to them too. So I like I said, I really liked him, and I know that LeVar's got a lot of problems. But even that's another message. I remember when I was leaving, there was a woman in the driveway or out in the street. And see, a lot of the neighborhood kids would come over and play basketball on their court. And they're paying for LeVar's coaching. And there was a woman out there in her car telling me, well, my kid had bad grades. He had no direction. He didn't know what he was doing. And then he started hanging around with some of these ball kids. And they were running up and down this hill together as training. And I brought my son with him, and LeVar said, why don't you get on the track team? And he got my son on the track team, and now he's playing basketball. He's track. His grades are going up, and he's much better of a person now. So the woman was just glowing about how great LeVar was. So, that's anytime I talk to groups or whatever about LeVar, I sit here and rave about him, and I know that I'm going way overboard because probably the bigger body of work is negative, but I think that people don't see the positives.
I don't think the bigger body of work is negative. I just think he put the negative stuff front and center, and it blotted out all the good stuff that he was doing. And there's just been less of that. And listening to these stories, I think LeVar, perfect fit in Chicago. Chicago needs a father figure, someone, in that city that represents that. Finally, Greg, though, let's get to the basketball part of it. Lonzo Ball, Chicago Bulls, is he going to make a difference?
I don't want to, maybe they're going to be a squeak into the playoffs kind of a team now, unless they can get more players. But they're not a joke anymore. They've got enough to actually threaten people, and maybe they can look at the Bucks and just see how you can develop a team and over the course of time. And maybe that's what the Bulls are going to do here instead of. They're obviously not going to go out and land, James Harden and stuff like that. So maybe this is the Bucks are provided a path for the Bulls to get there.
Thank you, Greg. When I get online, I want to know that I'm safe. That's why I love ExpressVPN. They keep my personal information more private and secure. Find out how you can get 4 months free just by clicking the link in the description box below or by going to expressvpn.com/fearless. Protect your online privacy with ExpressVPN.
Thank
It's
you.
your boy Greg Couch. You got something you want to add, Jim?
Hey, man. You know what, honestly, talking about LaVar Ball, of everyone that we met at Fox, probably the one dude that was the most instrumental or one of the most instrumental just in the Uncle Jimmy character was LaVar Ball. You know?
Why do you say that?
Because, you know, you had this thing that you always, we had this thing that I always took a picture with the guests with whatever costume I had on. Well, that day we had LaVar Ball on, I had a damn Donald Duck costume on. And I didn't want to take the picture. I'm like, man, I want to take a picture, but forever I'm gonna have on this Donald Duck costume. And he calls me in his dressing room. He's, man, get in here and sit down. And I sat down and he takes the Donald Duck head, and I actually have a picture of him putting the Donald Duck head on. And he just told me, he said, man, look, whatever you do, when you go out here in front of this camera, you give the people what, and he goes into this LaVar Ball voice, but then he goes back and just, in other words, he was showing me that there's two LaVar Balls. And I got a chance to see that other LaVar Ball. I got a chance to see that LaVar Ball that talked about how much work that he put in to his 3 sons, even down to choosing the mother that he was going to breed with. You know, I mean, I like this dude because he was somebody that I hated on TV. But man, I like that dude.
You've taken me off in a bit of a different direction that I didn't plan to go. But I'm glad you brought it up because LaVar Ball was very calculated in who he chose to have kids with. And I salute him for that. And people need to recognize and understand that because I think we think that marriage is, oh, man, she thrilled me. Or, oh, I find her attractive. Or, man, she can cook. And LaVar Ball, like a lot of intelligent people.
Man, she's white.
No.
I mean, I'm saying some people like that. I'm just,
yeah. But LaVar Ball, to me, made a business decision.
Calculated decision.
Yes. And he's an athlete.
That's what he said.
His wife was an athlete.
That's what he said.
She's tall. He's tall. And again, these things matter. Go look at the stats of the advantages of being 6'2" or taller across the globe. It's not just here in America. There are privileges to being tall. In leadership, CEOs, I think, are mostly 6'2" or taller. There are major advantages. And again, I'm not dumping on short people. But
no offense taken, but go ahead.
You should try to put some thought into who you lay down with